Dad, do you have any idea what 15 acres just outside Boston is worth these days? Michael adjusted his Rolex, the same model I'd worn during my years as a financial executive. We could turn this into a premium residential development. Think high-end townhouses, maybe some luxury amenities. I continued quietly eating my pot roast, watching my 3 children dissect my retirement dream as if it were another corporate acquisition. After 35 years of analyzing markets and maximizing profits at Thompson Financial, I'd finally purchased the land I'd been eyeing for the past 5 years. The zoning permits mixed-use development. My daughter Jennifer chimed in, pulling up satellite images on her iPad. We could easily fit 20 units while maintaining the rural character the town board insists on. I'm James Thompson, 60 years old, and I'd spent my career helping companies grow their wealth. Now I wanted to grow something different: organic vegetables, heritage grains, and most importantly, knowledge about sustainable farming for the next generation. The timing is perfect, my youngest son Andrew added. The real estate market is booming, and with Dad's connections, we could pre-sell most units before breaking ground. What they didn't know was that I'd already registered the property as a teaching farm with the state's agricultural extension program. Starting next spring, it would host workshops on organic farming, sustainable agriculture, and traditional farming methods. Have any of you asked what I plan to do with the land? I set down my fork. Jennifer waved dismissively. Dad, we know you're thinking about some kind of hobby farm, but let's be realistic. Your expertise is in finance, not farming. I stood and walked to my study, returning with a thick folder. The first document was my agreement with 3 local schools to provide hands-on agricultural education. The farm would offer internships, workshops, and a farm-to-table program teaching kids about sustainable food systems. A teaching farm? Michael's voice dripped with disbelief. Dad, that's not a viable use of prime real estate. I've already received grants from 2 agricultural foundations, I replied. The organic certification process starts next month. Andrew grabbed the papers, his face darkening as he read. This is crazy. You're going to throw away millions in potential development value to grow vegetables. And teach others to grow them, I corrected. The program's already fully booked for the first year. But the property value, Jennifer began. Not everything is about monetary value, I interrupted. Some things are about legacy, about making a difference. Michael stood, pacing the dining room. This is about Mom, isn't it? Her crazy organic garden and all that talk about sustainable living. The room fell silent. Margaret had been passionate about organic gardening, transforming our suburban backyard into a productive vegetable patch before cancer took her 5 years ago. She'd always dreamed of having a real farm, of teaching others how to grow their own food. Your mother understood that real wealth isn't just about money, I said quietly. She taught me that, though it took me years to really understand. Jennifer's expression softened slightly. Mom's garden. It was amazing. But Dad, this is different. This is 15 acres of prime real estate. It's 15 acres of fertile soil, I corrected. Soil that can grow food, yes, but also understanding, appreciation for where our food comes from, and knowledge that needs to be passed on. Michael was still scanning the documents. The educational programs, the organic certification. You've been planning this for years, haven't you? 5 years, I confirmed. Every bonus, every investment return. I put it aside for this. This isn't a retirement whim. Andrew looked up from his phone, where he'd been researching property values. But the potential return on investment. Some returns can't be measured in dollars, I said, pulling out more documents, the curriculum plans, the partnership agreements with local schools, the sustainable agriculture programs we developed. The first group of interns starts in spring, I continued. 20 students, most from urban areas, learning everything from soil management to business planning for small farms. Jennifer was quiet, looking at the farm's blueprints, the teaching kitchen, the greenhouse, the areas designated for different crops. These plans, they're actually quite impressive. I may not know farming yet, I admitted, but I know how to plan, how to build something sustainable. I've hired experienced farmers as instructors and partnered with agricultural experts. This isn't just about growing vegetables, it's about growing knowledge. Michael loosened his tie, a gesture I recognized from my own corporate days. The financial structure is solid, he conceded. You've thought this through. Of course I have, I smiled. I was a financial executive for 35 years. I know how to make something viable. Andrew was now looking at the farm's website on his phone. You've already got a waiting list for the programs. 200 applications for 20 spots in the first internship program, I confirmed. There's huge demand for this kind of hands-on agricultural education. The atmosphere in the room shifted. Jennifer picked up the architectural plans again, this time looking at them with professional interest rather than dismissal. The teaching kitchen design is actually quite innovative. Designed for both classes and farm-to-table events, I explained. We'll teach not just growing, but cooking, preserving, and understanding the whole food system. Michael was running numbers on his phone. The grant funding is substantial, he noted, and the educational tax benefits. This isn't about tax benefits, I said firmly. It's about creating something meaningful, something that honors your mother's memory and helps others learn what she tried to teach us. The room fell silent except for the ticking of Margaret's old kitchen clock. Finally, Jennifer spoke, her voice softer. Mom would have loved this, wouldn't she? She helped design the initial layout, I said. The herb garden? That's exactly how she planned it years ago. Andrew was scrolling through the course descriptions. These programs, they're pretty comprehensive. From basic gardening to advanced sustainable agriculture. And business planning, I added. Teaching people not just how to grow food, but how to make small farming viable. Michael was still frowning at the documents, but I could see his expression changing. The educational model is interesting, he admitted. Teaching sustainable business along with sustainable agriculture. I pulled out more papers, the marketing plans, the community outreach programs, the partnerships with local restaurants and food banks. This isn't just about teaching farming, I explained. It's about creating a model for how small farms can thrive in the modern world. Jennifer was examining the greenhouse plans. Dad, what if we added some architectural elements to make the teaching spaces more effective? I have some ideas. And so it began. Just as I'd seen countless times in business, initial resistance gave way to engagement once people saw the full vision. My children, all successful in their own fields, were starting to see possibilities beyond real estate development. The sun was setting outside, casting long shadows across what would soon be our first teaching gardens. Margaret had always said every garden teaches patience, and now I was teaching that lesson to our children in a different way. My phone buzzed. A message from the Agricultural Extension Office. First batch of heritage seeds arrived. Greenhouse construction starts next week. I smiled, remembering Margaret's excitement every spring when her seed catalogs arrived. The farm would never be the luxury development our children had imagined. Instead, it would grow something more valuable. Knowledge, understanding, and a connection to the land that no townhouse development could provide. 3 months later, I stood in the newly constructed greenhouse, watching as our first batch of seedlings pushed through the organic soil. The transformation of the property had been remarkable, but the transformation in my children had been even more surprising. Michael, my corporate-minded eldest, had unexpectedly become fascinated with the business model of small-scale organic farming. He'd spent weeks researching successful teaching farms across the country, identifying best practices we could implement. Dad, Jennifer called from the doorway. The contractors need your approval on the outdoor classroom design. I followed her to where workers were laying the foundation for our teaching pavilion. The structure would provide shelter for classes while maintaining an open connection to the surrounding gardens. Jennifer had redesigned it 3 times, incorporating elements that would make it perfect for both instruction and community events. "I've been thinking," she said, pointing to the plans. "What if we added a demonstration kitchen here? We could host farm-to-table workshops, teaching people not just about growing, but also cooking with seasonal ingredients." My phone buzzed. A message from Andrew. "Don't finalize anything with the kitchen plans. I've been talking to some top culinary schools about partnerships." Andrew, who had initially seen only lost real estate opportunity, had become our unexpected networking champion. His connections in the restaurant industry were opening doors we hadn't even considered. "Your children are quite the force of nature," Marcus, our head farmer and instructor, commented as he checked the tomato seedlings. "Rather like these plants, give them the right conditions, and they flourish in unexpected ways." I smiled, remembering Margaret's words about how gardens reveal people's true nature. Our children, who had once sought to pave over this land for profit, were now deeply invested in helping it thrive. "James," Michael's voice carried across the property as his Tesla pulled up. "Wait until you hear what I learned at the Sustainable Agriculture Conference." He hurried over, tablet in hand, full of ideas about integrating modern technology with traditional farming methods. "We can use smart sensors to optimize water usage, track soil health in real time, and provide data-driven insights to our students." The finance executive becomes a tech-savvy farmer, I teased. "Well," he grinned, "you taught me to recognize good investments. This one just yields different kinds of returns." Before he could continue, a school bus appeared on our newly graveled drive. Today's visitors were middle school students from inner-city Boston, part of our outreach program to connect urban youth with agriculture. "Places everyone," Marcus called out. "First impressions matter." I watched as the students filed out, their initial skepticism giving way to interest as they saw the greenhouse full of growing plants, the outdoor classroom under construction, and the first plots of spring vegetables emerging from the soil. "Mr. Thompson," their teacher said, shaking my hand. "The kids have been talking about this visit for weeks. Most of them have never seen food actually growing before." Jennifer was already leading some students toward the greenhouse, explaining how we started seeds and why organic soil matters. Michael had another group fascinated by the smart irrigation system he'd installed, while Andrew was setting up for their cooking lesson later. "Dad," Jennifer called out, "come show them Mom's herb garden design." As I walked over, I noticed how naturally my children had adapted to their roles as teachers. Jennifer explaining architecture and design principles through the lens of agricultural structures, Michael making sustainability financially interesting, Andrew connecting farming to culinary arts. "The herbs are planted in companion grooves," I explained to the students. "Just like my wife designed years ago in our backyard. Some plants help others grow better when they're planted together." "Like people," one student observed. "We do better when we help each other grow." Out of the mouths of babes, as Margaret would have said. The morning progressed with hands-on lessons in planting, composting, and basic farm management. Every student got to plant something in our teaching garden, their names carefully marked on stakes beside their seedlings. "They can come back and see how their plants grow," Jennifer explained. "We're tracking each student's plant on our website too." Michael was already calculating the impact. If each student tells their family about this experience, and they tell others. "It's not about the numbers," I reminded him gently. "It's about the seeds we're planting, both literal and figurative." He nodded, understanding now in a way he hadn't 3 months ago. "I know, Dad, but the numbers help us show others why this matters." Andrew approached with news from his latest restaurant contacts. 3 more chefs want to participate in our farm-to-table program. They're offering internships to our advanced students. The property was coming alive, not just with growing things, but with possibilities. The luxury townhouses my children had once envisioned would have housed a few wealthy families. Instead, this land would feed and teach hundreds, maybe thousands, over the years. James, Marcus called out, the heritage grain seedlings are sprouting. I hurried to the special section where we were growing almost forgotten varieties of wheat and corn. Margaret had been passionate about preserving agricultural diversity, and this program would help keep these ancient varieties alive. Mom would have loved this, Jennifer said softly, joining me. Remember how she used to talk about the importance of saving these old varieties? She called them living history, I replied, each seed carrying stories from generations past. As the students prepared to leave, each clutching a small pot with their planted seeds, I saw the same light in their eyes that I'd seen in Margaret's when she talked about growing things, the same excitement about possibilities, about creating something alive and meaningful. My phone buzzed again. A message from the Agricultural Extension Office. Your teaching farm model is attracting national attention. Would you present at the Sustainable Agriculture Conference next month? I showed the message to my children. Michael immediately started preparing presentation points. Jennifer began designing slides, and Andrew suggested ways to showcase our programs. The sun was high now, warming the spring soil where so many things were beginning to grow. Plants, yes, but also understanding, purpose, and connection. My children, who had once seen only profit potential in this land, were now its most dedicated stewards. Different from their original plans, yes, but infinitely more valuable. They were helping to grow not just crops, but knowledge, opportunity, and hope. Margaret would have been so proud. 6 months into our farming venture, I sat in the outdoor classroom pavilion, watching the autumn sun paint our fields in golden light. The harvest season was in full swing, with students and interns working alongside experienced farmers to bring in crops that would feed local families and supply our educational programs through the winter. The transformation had exceeded even my most optimistic hopes. What had started as my retirement dream had evolved into a thriving educational ecosystem, thanks in large part to my children's unexpected contributions. Dad, Michael called, leading a group of business students across the property. These MBA candidates want to learn about our sustainable agriculture business model. My corporate-minded son had developed a surprising passion for teaching sustainable farm economics. He'd created a comprehensive curriculum showing how small farms could be both environmentally and financially viable. Jennifer appeared from the greenhouse, architectural plans tucked under her arm as usual. The winter teaching kitchen is almost ready, she announced. We can start the preserved foods workshops next week. Through the large windows of our new teaching kitchen, I could see Andrew working with a renowned chef, preparing for an upcoming farm-to-table demonstration. My youngest, once focused solely on real estate values, had become our bridge to the culinary world. Mr. Thompson. Marcus approached with our latest harvest reports. The Heritage Grain Program exceeded expectations. Local bakeries are already requesting next year's crop. I smiled, remembering Margaret's passion for preserving traditional varieties. She would have loved seeing the ancient grains thriving in our fields, their golden heads swaying in the autumn breeze. James called Dr. Sarah Miller from the Agricultural Extension Office, who was visiting today. Your teaching model is being considered for statewide implementation. Would you share how this all evolved? I led her to the herb garden, Margaret's original design now flourishing on a larger scale. It started with my wife's backyard garden, I explained. She understood something I didn't learn until later, that growing food is about more than filling stomachs. It's about growing understanding. And now? She asked, noting the groups of students scattered across the property. Now we're growing future farmers, chefs, educators, and advocates for sustainable agriculture. My children helped me see how to make it bigger than I'd imagined. As Defon Q, Michael joined us, excitement in his voice. Dad, the data from our first 6 months is remarkable. Student engagement rates, community impact metrics, local food system contributions. Still the numbers, man, I teased. Numbers tell stories, he defended. And this story needs to be told. Small-scale farming can be viable when we think creatively about education and community integration. Jennifer called us over to the new winter greenhouse, where she'd incorporated passive solar design principles to minimize energy use. "Look at these growth rates," she said proudly. "We can teach year-round now." Andrew emerged from the kitchen, carrying a tray of bread made with our heritage grains. "The restaurant partnership program is expanding," he announced. "We've got a waiting list of chefs wanting to teach workshops." I watched my children move through the property with purpose and passion, each having found their own way to contribute to this vision. The luxury development they'd initially planned seemed like a distant dream now, replaced by something far more valuable. "Your family has created something special here," Dr. Miller observed. "It's not just a farm or a school. It's a model for agricultural education." My phone buzzed. A message from one of our first student interns. "Got accepted to agricultural college. Thank you for showing me what's possible." I shared the message with my children. Jennifer wiped away a tear, while Michael immediately added it to his impact metrics. Andrew just smiled, already planning a celebration dinner using our homegrown ingredients. "Remember when we thought Dad was crazy?" Jennifer asked her brothers. "Trading prime real estate for a teaching farm. Now who's crazy?" Michael grinned. "Me, spending weekends teaching farm economics instead of playing golf." "All of us," Andrew added, "and it's the best kind of crazy." The afternoon sun cast long shadows across our fields, where the last of the pumpkins were being harvested by a group with elementary school students. Their excited voices carried across the property as they learned about plant life cycles and seasonal changes. "Mr. Thompson." A small girl approached, holding up a perfectly round pumpkin. "Can we really eat the seeds from this?" "Of course," I smiled. "In fact, would you like to learn how to save some for planting next spring?" Her eyes lit up with the same excitement I'd seen in Margaret's when she talked about saving seeds. The same light I now saw in my children's eyes when they talked about our programs. Dr. Miller was taking notes rapidly. The integration of traditional farming knowledge with modern business and culinary education. It's revolutionary in its simplicity. "It's about connecting dots," Michael explained. "Finance to farming, education to enterprise, past to future." Jennifer added, "And designing spaces that facilitate those connections." While making it delicious, Andrew chimed in, offering around his heritage grain bread. The property had become more than a farm, more than a school. It was a living laboratory where different forms of knowledge cross-pollinated, creating something new and vital. As the day wound down, my children gathered with me on the teaching pavilion's porch, watching the sunset paint our fields in autumn colors. Different from their original vision of luxury townhouses, yes, but somehow exactly what this land was meant to be. "Mom would have loved this," Jennifer said softly. "She does love it," I corrected. "Every seed we plant, every student we teach, every meal we share, she's part of it all." The evening air carried the scent of earth and growing things, of possibility and purpose. Tomorrow would bring new students, new challenges, new opportunities to grow both food and understanding. The luxury development plans lay forgotten in a drawer somewhere, replaced by lesson plans, planting schedules, and dreams of expanding our impact even further. My children had found something more valuable than real estate profits. They'd found their own ways to create lasting change. And somewhere, Margaret was surely smiling at all of us. One year after starting our teaching farm, I stood in our heritage grain field, watching a golden sunset paint the autumn sky. We were hosting our first annual harvest festival, celebrating not just the crops we'd grown, but the community we built and the changes we'd witnessed in ourselves. "Ladies and gentlemen," Michael announced to the gathered crowd, "welcome to Thompson Teaching Farm's first anniversary celebration. When our father bought this land, we thought he was making a mistake. Today, we're here to celebrate how wonderfully wrong we were." The property was filled with students, families, chefs, and farmers, all connected through our programs. String lights twinkled in the teaching pavilion, where Andrew and his culinary students were serving dishes made entirely from our harvest. Jennifer's beautifully designed spaces flowed seamlessly from indoor learning areas to outdoor growing spaces, all full of life and purpose. "Dad," Jennifer said, linking her arm through mine, "did you ever imagine it would become this?" I watched as former students taught new ones about composting, while local chefs discussed seasonal cooking with interested families. Children ran through the pumpkin patch, and farmers shared tips about seed saving in the greenhouse. "Actually," I replied, "your mother imagined it. I just helped make it real, and you three made it bigger than either of us dreamed." Michael joined us, his tablet forgotten for once. "The impact numbers are amazing, but they don't capture this." He gestured to the scene before us. "You can't quantify the feeling of watching someone harvest their first tomato or bake bread from wheat they helped grow." Speaking of bread, Andrew called from the teaching kitchen, "The heritage grain loaves are ready. And wait until you taste what the students made with our autumn squash." Dr. Miller from the Agricultural Extension Office approached with exciting news. "3 more counties want to replicate your model. You've proven that small-scale teaching farms can transform communities." The evening air was rich with the scent of earth and herbs, fresh bread, and autumn leaves. Students who'd started in spring were now confidently teaching newcomers. Children who'd never seen a vegetable grow were proudly showing their parents the gardens they'd helped tend. "Remember when we wanted to build luxury townhouses here?" Jennifer mused. "How empty that seems now." "Not empty," I corrected. "Just a different kind of vision. It took all of us, your business sense, Michael, your design skills, Jennifer, your culinary connections, Andrew, to make this place what it is." A young intern approached with her acceptance letter to Agricultural College. Another showed us the business plan for his future farm. A child proudly displayed her first successfully saved seeds. These were the real fruits of our labor, not just the vegetables and grains we'd grown, but the knowledge, confidence, and possibilities we planted in others. As darkness fell, Marcus gathered everyone for the traditional harvest blessing. Standing in the field where we'd grown our first crops, surrounded by the community we'd built, I felt Margaret's presence strongly. "To the land that teaches us," Marcus began, "to the hands that tend it, to the minds that learn from it, and to the hearts that grow with it." My children stood with me, each having found their true calling in this unexpected venture. Michael's financial wisdom now helped other small farms succeed. Jennifer's designs created spaces where learning flourished naturally. Andrew's culinary programs connected people to the food they grew. The luxury development they'd originally planned would have housed a few wealthy families. Instead, this land had become a place where hundreds learned, grew, and discovered their own connections to the earth and each other. "To Mom," Jennifer whispered, raising her glass of home-pressed cider. "To growth," Michael added. "To good food and better dreams," Andrew finished. I looked out over our teaching farm, the fields now cleared for winter, the greenhouse glowing with new seedlings, the teaching kitchen warm with light and learning. Different from what any of us had initially imagined, but exactly what it needed to be. The first year had taught us all something valuable. The richest harvest comes not from what we take from the land, but from what we give to others through it. As the festival continued into the night, I quietly walked to Margaret's herb garden. The autumn air was crisp with possibility, rich with the scent of growth and change. Tomorrow would bring new students, new challenges, and new opportunities to grow both food and understanding. But tonight, under the harvest moon, we celebrated not just crops gathered, but wisdom shared, purpose found, and family bonds strengthened through unexpected soil. And in the gentle evening breeze, I could have sworn I heard Margaret laugh with joy.